We are recording now.
Okay, terrific. Thank you. It's 8:39. We'll call the meeting, the June meeting of the Policy Committee to order. Thanks for joining, everyone. In terms of our agenda, the first is the approval of the minutes. I hope everyone had a chance to look through them.
Yes.
Okay, terrific. Does anybody have any changes for the minutes? No? Okay, can we have a motion to approve the minutes?
I make the motion to approve the minutes.
All right, thanks. Sharon, second? Peter? Nice, thank you.
All in
All right,
favor?
all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Great, okay, we've now approved the minutes from our last meeting. And then let's look on the agenda. I saw the gifted and talented policy, but let's just make sure there's nothing else. Discussion of new policies. Okay, yep, the discussion of a new policy series 6000 instruction policy for the equitable identification of gifted and talented
I
students.
did give you one at some point. You can have that.
All right, so I imagine, Tracy, that's why you're here with us today?
Yes.
Not that we don't welcome you every month, but all right, well, why don't you tell us? I looked through it. I mean, I didn't see really any changes. That's why I was kind of confused in terms of what we're doing with this. Or is this a new policy from the draft? It's just totally new?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fabulous.
So every once in a while, we get updates from Shipman and Goodwin about new policies. And this one happened to come through my email a couple of weeks ago. And you're right, Melissa, the content of it is straightforward and really should be, I think, very consistent with things that have already been happening, but this formalizes aspects of that process. If you want me to speak to it just a little bit, I think one key in this policy is the need to convene a planning and placement team meeting. What's not outlined in the policy, and I think I need some clarification on, is how that is going to work in our new CT SEDS system. I think the board's aware that we're transitioning to a new IEP system on July 1st. And I just don't know exactly what that plan looks like in a different format. Other than that, the policy really just outlines definitions of both gifted and talented. It talks about the evaluation process. Evaluations can continue to be conducted in the format of a group assessment like the OLSAT or the Naglieri, which should be familiar. Evaluations for the district. There are sometimes occasions, though, where we are conducting individual evaluations, and that's outlined here for students who are not in, quote, tested grade levels. So that's the gist of the policy. The policy also indicates, which is consistent with the way the state of Connecticut has always formatted gifted and talented. The board has discretion to determine whether or not we provide services to students who are identified as gifted and talented. This is not like special education where we have an obligation to provide services. These services happen at the discretion of the district.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's always something we've protected at our board meetings. I think, generally, historically, at least as long as I've been on the board, I think the board historically has viewed, gifted and talented students as needing of services just as much as students who need services for other reasons. So I think that's.
Can I ask a question, Tracy?
Yeah.
And this just because a newbie coming in here, the gifted and talented program, what sort of services do we offer currently?
So gifted and talented programming really begins at the formal gifted and talented programming really begins at the intermediate school. And there's a variety of academic supports that are offered in each of the content areas. And students have the opportunity to extend their experiences and knowledge base in one or more of those content areas. There's a pretty extensive process that happens at each of the buildings where student scores and performance are discussed and decisions are made based on those conversations. It's very much right now, and I think it should be, a collective conversation at the building level.
Hmm. Is it then? Go ahead. Sorry.
And I was just going to say that those services continue through the middle school. And then I think because we have so many options at the high school level and there are so many advanced courses available, gifted and talented meshes really with opportunities for, AP fill in the blank
Right.
stage.
So with the gifted and talented, are they being given additional instruction? There's no tracking that's going on as far as the WIS in middle school, correct? Or is there tracking?
Tracking
me
in what?
As far as like gifted and talented, or we're not having like an advanced, one class that's advanced, one class that's regs, and then that's the tracking that we're not doing any of that, correct?
Well, there's the Project Challenge, which is the classroom,
Right.
So it's,
a class for grades 3 through 8.
and Project Challenge, is that an extra class? Like they're pulled out for that class, or are they all in this class throughout the entire day for Project
No,
Challenge?
they're pulled out.
Right. No? Hold on, I'm seeing the
They're.
pictures.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll let the
Oh, I was
I
gonna
was
say
adding
that-
yes to Melissa. They are not in that classroom all day. They spend parts of the day in that program.
Okay. All right. Oh, we came in here middle school, so that's why I'm unaware of how we handle it here in Weston. So okay, good.
Yeah,
to
And
know.
I think the Sharon, if you're interested, the Project Challenge fair at the middle school and the intermediate school is in person and I think virtual this year. So do we post that somewhere, Lisa? The Project Challenge fair? I mean, maybe we should. for
It
people that
most
might wanna-
definitely should be posted, and I need to make sure it gets on my calendar, which some things have been a challenge this year, quite frankly. So Jody, if you could take care of that, that would be great.
Yeah, I'll see if it's on middle school calendar.
It is. I have the date somewhere.
Okay.
Okay.
One thing I want to add, because I go way back with this program, I remember at the high school many years ago, we did have the program. However, as Tracy spoke, the program, it's not appropriate at the high school level, or it was very difficult to have it work at the high school level for the following reasons. We have AP, we have honors. We also have independent study honors. We have a lot of other opportunities, science research, where students explore their interests and passions, which a lot of that program is about. And when, quite frankly, it was reduced to one section, again, you had students saying, I don't want to take this. I want to take AP Psych, or I want to take these other courses that best met the needs. So
Right.
it was probably, when I first came
Bless you.
on board as principal, that we sunsetted it at the high school.
No, that makes sense at the high school, absolutely, because there's a lot of course selection that they can have. I was not aware of. I have kids at all different levels of the spectrum, so I wasn't quite aware of how that worked as far as the WIS in middle school and if it was Hurlbut or anything. So that makes sense. It makes sense.
Yeah, and just for anyone that's interested, the middle school Project Challenge fair is Wednesday from 9 to 12 in the middle school library, but there will be a link somewhere for the virtual fair. And I know the intermediate school does the same thing. I don't have that date on hand.
Okay.
But so that's
And we can
that's
just
really
we can just go in and check it out, right?
you can
on
walk
Wednesday?
over and see it in person Wednesday 9 to 12, or you
That'd be
can
great.
watch it at the virtual link, which I don't know where that link is, but somewhere.
All right. Perfect.
The question I had for you, Tracy, was this policy also talks about gifted and talented in the arts. How do we identify those students, and what's the process? I mean, arts much more subjective, I think, than the OLSAT scores. How do we identify those students, and what services do they get, K through 8, if any?
Yeah, I'll be totally honest. I have been less involved in that part of the process than I have in the academic component. I think I need to get some more information for you and circle back. I wasn't able to do that.
No, that's fine. I mean, I'm just curious because they mention it here, and I didn't know if they meant maybe, the magnet school at CES, the art school there. I forget the name of it. they have that fantastic arts program in Trumbull that
Yeah.
kids can go to. I don't know if that's what they're referring to or if it's things here in the district, but
I think it's RCA.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're talking about the Regional Center for the Arts.
yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
it is excellent, and we do have students participate in that.
Oh,
Okay.
well, and what grade level is RCA? Where does that start?
We
Um,
typically have high school students
Okay.
participate in that program.
There's another point that I want to make, though. We don't have a lot of students that participate in the program. And again, because over the last several years, like there was someone that participated, it wasn't in that one, but it was actually in another one. It was the magnet program in New Haven. And the thing is now we offer AP Music Theory and these other courses that are really robust and important for students that are looking to the arts. So because of those offerings, there isn't as big of a focus to leave and go to those programs, I guess I would say.
Right. Fair enough.
Okay, well, maybe we should just, think about at the younger levels here, how we would identify somebody that might be talented in the arts and make sure that we have enough outlets and resources for them. I mean, maybe it's,
Sure. I think it's
Something.
certainly worth a discussion with those two curricular instructional leaders. I know that there are certain there are a lot of it, as I said, is related to their passion and their interest. And there are certain groups that I know take place at the intermediate school in the area. Well, I was hearing about it the other day, chorus versus general music. The kids are really great in chorus because they choose to be there and they come in early. And,
Right.
these
Yeah.
lovely two young ladies were telling me about that. And I think the same thing can be said for some of these musical, instrumental groups. I know that there's the jazz group, for example, at the middle school, and but it certainly bears the conversation of to see if are we doing this at scale and are there enough robust offerings.
I think
Yeah.
the jazz group at the high school is amazing as well. I mean, that's
And the feeder program is the middle school, so that's good.
yeah.
I don't know if we do jazz at the intermediate school. One thing I do know, not to get off on a tangent, is we start music band
Yeah.
later than our Durgay counterparts at the
Oh,
elementary
really?
school. And
We
I think
started in
we-
fifth grade or fourth grade.
yeah.
they start in fifth, whereas other Durgay schools around here start in fourth. And I don't understand why. And I think that that's another thing that we kind of need to reflect on and see why, because generally it's third and fourth grade in most elementary schools. And for us, it's not.
So yeah, my former elementary school, we were painfully the recorder in third grade, and then they could go from we had a strings program that started in fourth grade as well as a band program that started in fourth grade, and the school had a tremendous high school band, and so it definitely
We do have the strings starts in fourth grade.
does
In
it?
Strings, yeah, the strings. stuff.
We do fourth, fifth, where our Durgay counterparts do third, fourth.
Yeah.
That's the difference. So I think it's
Okay.
something to think about
Yeah.
moving forward.
Yeah, and
Okay.
I think I love the idea of having a conversation with the CILs and the arts, just because if there is a child that is gifted in that area, let's figure out who they are and see what we
Exactly.
can do.
Exactly.
Because we have
And-
great instruction here.
And the
with
teachers
arts.
as well. That's one of the great things about being close. I can walk into a teacher like Lisa Moretti and say, hey, what do we do for this? Or Katie Carroll in art, what could we do? How
Right.
could we enrich it? So good suggestion.
Okay. All right. Well, I mean, I think this policy is ready to go for first read. Does anybody have any concerns about it? We don't have to adopt it the way that Shipman and Goodwin did. We can always modify it to the extent it fits us better here in Weston. But there's nothing really specific in here. And I think it gives us a lot of flexibility in terms of how we want to craft our program and our instruction and even our identification. So to me, this is just kind of the bare bones. And I
Mhm.
think that's fine.
I think keeping it bare bones is probably the best thing we can do.
Yeah. I think it gives us flexibility to
Right.
craft a program how we want to craft it. And I think that's why you see across our DIRG and across the state that these types of programs vary from school to school. And, as part of our curriculum updates, the gifted and talented program Project Challenge is reviewed on the same cycle that, science, math, English, whatever. I mean, I think it came up, I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago, I feel like, for review. So it's not like it's not something that we ever examine. But I think that we should continue to look at it. And if people, just because we have this policy doesn't mean that we can't make modifications to our gifted and talented program.
True.
But I think it's worth adopting this policy and bringing it forward for a first read, if everyone agrees.
I agree.
Okay. So this one can go up on the 14th for a first read, Jody. I read it over also for our inclusive language, and I did not see any edits that needed to be made. Parent guardian was used consistently. Children was used consistently.
Okay, Jody, can we take care of that, please? Can you take care of that?
Okay. The next agenda item is just, and Tracy, I know you're very busy, but if you wouldn't mind just sticking around a few minutes to help us prioritize, I think that would be great.
Sure.
The next item on our agenda is just discussion generally of policies, regulations, and bylaws. So I just kind of wanted to recap for the committee, according to my notes, where we stand. We had a first read on the bullying policy, and then we put that on pause, I think, because we may be making some further changes to it. So it'll have to go back again for a first read, but that's fine. Mm-hmm. We also discussed, but I don't believe got to a first read on the visitor observation policy. Mm-hmm. So I think that's a priority too that we want to consider. And then we had talked about the student discipline policy. And you'll have to forgive me, I can't recall where we were with student discipline. I don't think we even started that, right?
No. I had started to do a markup on it, but that's about as far as we got.
Okay.
And was that markup just language?
Yes.
Inclusive language.
Substance. Mm-hmm. I think that's a really good place to start moving forward. Like, I would recommend, let's get that. I think the thing that's holding up about the observation is look at the form. I think we wanted some feedback on that form, Tracy, the request form. Does that sound familiar?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I did look at that. I'm happy to circle back and talk about it again, but.
So
yeah, that, if you remember, Tracy, it's the observation policy, it's not just visitors coming to the school, but it's also, anybody that's doing like a neuropsych evaluation that's going to be in the classroom observing students.
Neuropsych from within the school district or neuropsych from outside the school district?
Typically from outside, but inside as well.
Outside consultants, parent observation, all of that.
Yep.
We had looked at it, we discussed it. We had a situation that kind of sparked it, which was good. And then we are going to circle back and kind of look at the request form. So hopefully then starting the year, it's in good shape to like do a first read I think the goal is to get this committee to move it forward to a first read in September, if that works.
Mm-hmm. That'd be great. If we could put that on for the visitor observation on our next policy meeting, which I think is probably September, I guess.
September. And maybe we also at that time look at the bullying too, because I know there's some stuff that we want to do around the administrative retreat with that, kind of a refresher in tandem with policy. So if we could do those two to start the year off, that I think would be really great.
We did a first read for bullying already though, did we not?
We did it for inclusive language.
Only the language.
We did it for inclusive language, and then Tracy realized that the policy that we have on our website is very outdated. There have been several revisions since then.
Okay,
so
great.
I pulled the latest one off of Shipman, and that I think already has the inclusive language changes in it. So we'll just review that one, and then hopefully we can just move forward from there.
Does that officially have to go back to first read, or can we make that a second?
Okay. I think it does, yes.
Yeah, it has to go to first read. And I think, if you guys are talking about it at the retreat, that's great, because bullying it's a big issue.
It's huge.
So let's make sure we're really thoughtful about that. And that gives the committee the opportunity this summer to think about it a little bit more. Peter, Sharon, myself, we can think about that too. The other thing with the visitor observation policy, when you guys are looking at that one, and I think it existed already, but obviously the big concern there is we want to give, parents and consultants the right to view children so that we can develop plans for their educational progress. That's in everybody's best interest. But there's also a lot of confidentiality concerns. A lot of stuff that happens in the classroom needs to, to be protected, and we can't have, parents and consultants in classes all the time, especially if other things are happening in the classroom that might be subject to confidentiality.
Are the parents able to do an observation as well as a consultant, or is it strictly consultants?
Parents, per the policy, parents are allowed to do observations. They're on the form that we're talking about. There is information around confidentiality, and people needing to maintain confidentiality. And Melissa, I think to your point, the key part of the form, at least from my perspective, is it establishes a process for making decisions about the settings for those observations and what's appropriate.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we want to be really careful there.
Yeah, I think privacy is just the biggest thing on that one. The other student privacy.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so that sounds great for September for both of those. And then do we want to aspire to put, student discipline? Do we have concerns about substance with student discipline, or is it just inclusive language? Tracy, did you have thoughts on student discipline, or was that more coming from Lisa's office?
I didn't review that policy. I have some other policies that we should think about, but.
Okay.
I think that at our retreat, we'll get a better sense of that, quite frankly. What I'd love to be able to do in September is kind of hit the ground running and set it up. So the first meeting we have, this, and then what are the visitors, the bullying, the discipline, that all has to be wrapped up no later than October. What are the other policies, Tracy, or other areas that you think would be,
So there's a special education policy that's very dated that definitely needs to be updated. I'm not sure if I have it might be 6171. I can send you the number of the policy.
What's the substance?
So the substance of the policy is around our obligation for special education services. And I believe the date of our current policy is 1990. So we need to, it's a general policy. I don't think anything in it is going to be earth shattering in terms of content. It's all about our obligation to provide services to students through the IDEA, but we should have the new content included.
Okay.
I am also looking at, we have a suicide prevention policy that I'm not sure if there have been updates to that one, but I think we just need to look at it more closely. Again, I'll handle that, and then I'll let you know if there are any updates that are needed to that. And I'm also on my radar is to take a look at our policy around Medicaid and reimbursement for services.
Okay.
But the only one that I'm saying at this moment that I know definitely needs to be updated, in addition to the policies we've discussed, is special education.
Okay. Well, why don't we make that our next priority after these three? So we'll tackle in September bullying, observation, and student discipline.
Mm-hmm.
That could, that's a lot for us, but I'm confident this committee is up for the challenge. And then we can do the look at the special ed maybe in October. How do you feel about that kind of a timeline, Tracy?
I think the sooner the better. I'll follow your lead in terms of timing. I don't want to.
Well, we can push it to. We can try and get through it in September as well if you think it's that important, because we have the first read and the second read. So if we did it in the September policy meeting, which is before the board meeting, first read could be September BOE meeting, and then second read would be the October BOE meeting.
To be honest, I think that's doable. There will be less discussion around that policy than the bullying policy, for example. The bullying policy has aspects to it that I think people are going to want to discuss. What's our process? How do we handle things? The special education policy is really, we are obligated to follow the IDEA, and there's updated language included in that. But I don't think it's going to, I could be wrong, but I don't think it's going to prompt as much discussion and.
Okay.
That should be an easier one then.
Yeah, well then let's see if we can get through that in September as well. And we have talked about discipline and bullying recently, and obviously we've been talking about the observation policy a little bit here and there. So all of these, if we put a lot of thought into it beforehand, the discussion at the committee level should be fairly high level.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, I think that sounds like a reasonable plan. Let's move the special ed to September 2, and then Tracy, just keep us posted on suicide prevention, Medicaid reimbursement. We can put those on the October agenda or whatever suits your department. And if anything else comes up, we'll tackle it, as soon as we can as well.
Just a newbie question here again, and Peter, I don't know if you're thinking the same thing, but Medicaid reimbursement. What exactly is there reimbursement for from a Medicaid perspective?
Great question. There are certain special education students who are eligible for Medicaid through, I think it's through Husky ultimately. And what happens when we have students who are eligible, we complete service logs to outline what related services are provided to those students, and we get some reimbursement. It is not a significant amount of money in our district, to be honest, but we are required by the state to complete that process and request reimbursement.
Okay. All right. And the reimbursements for various types of therapies.
Yeah, it's specifically related services. It doesn't cover special education services, but it does cover things like speech and language, for example, or OT.
Okay.
Is that reimbursement visible in Phil's financials?
Yes, I don't know what line. I think our reimbursement was around $5,000. So
Okay.
we're not talking about a large line item.
Okay. Just
Right.
curious.
Okay, any other questions? If not, I think we can conclude our meeting. Any other questions?
None for me.
Okay. All right. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Sharon. Peter, you want a second?
I second it.
Okay. Before we adjourn, Lisa, comment? Or you want me to adjourn first?
Oh, I was just waving goodbye. Tracy, can you call me when you're done?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, meeting adjourned.
Thanks,
you, everyone.
everyone.
Ending
Okay,
recording.
next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Enjoy your summer.
You too.